Business owners have to wear many hats, but mailing and shipping expert shouldn't have to be one of them. Hi, I'm Al Coe, CEO of Stamps.com, and that's exactly why we're in business. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our country, and it's an honor to lead the Stamps.com team that's focused on helping you thrive. We've helped over 4 million customers with a better way to manage mailing and shipping without having to waste time leaving the office. You can print stamps and shipping labels, manage tracking, and even schedule free carrier pickups, all from one simple dashboard. When you're running a business, every dollar counts and every second matters. That's why we're committed to delivering the best service, rates, and solutions for your small business. You give your best, and Stamps.com delivers the best in return. Go to Stamps.com to sign up for a special offer.
She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold. She is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold. She is you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Word of Mom Radio here on the Word of Mom Media Network. I'm your host, Dori DeCarlo, and you know we are here week after week, show after show, breaking those myths that mompreneurs and business women, especially those of us building our businesses from home, that we're just dabbling in between bake sales and getting our nails done. We're not. We are smart, we are savvy, and we are sharing the wisdom of women in business and in life. And I'm looking forward to bringing today's guest in because I love sharing fellow podcasters, but we're bringing her into the author's alley. Melissa Llarena is an author, career coach, consultant, and speaker. She contributes to Forbes Women, amassed 7 million views. She hosts the Mom Founder Imagination Hub podcast, featuring guests like GaryVee and Beth Comstock for mom entrepreneurs. With a psychology degree from NYU and an MBA from Dartmouth's Tuck School, and a Transformational Coaching Academy certification, she's training as a meditation practitioner. Based in Austin, Texas, with her husband and 3 sons, Melissa's here to share her journey and her book, Fertile Imagination, a guide to stretching every mom's superpower for maximum impact. And you can actually grab a free chapter of her book at fertileideas.com. But with all that being said, I want to bring Melissa in. So welcome to Word of Mom Radio.
Thank you, Dori. And I love that you had mentioned mediation because I feel like all moms are mediators secretly. We're always always trying to mediate conversations between kids and the outside world. So I get why someone would want to become a practitioner in that topic. If you're a mom, if you're listening, you get it. But thank you for this opportunity, Dori. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. And you know what? It's so funny. I listen to moms sometimes who've been full-time moms. Oh, I've got to go back to work, but I don't really have any qualifications. And I just,
Hello.
It's like, are you kidding me? You have CEO qualifications. You know how to time manage, schedule, budget, mediation, conflict resolution, all of these things that we do as moms that we don't realize how well it translates into the business world. It's amazing.
100%.
So
100%.
I would love for you to take us on your journey and talk about how reawakening your imagination is so important and how you can use it to that maximum impact. So share the journey, Melissa.
Absolutely, Dori. So if anybody's going to actually be on my journey, just put on a seatbelt, make sure that, you are safely fixed to some sort of solid object because it was a very bumpy road. I would say, it really began as a little girl, myself being raised by a single mom. And here's something that I want to say that is more of an offering than anything else to you and to listeners, which is the following. So my mom has manic depression. And the reason why I say that, and it's a mental illness, she was diagnosed, this was at least 100 years ago. So it felt, maybe I was 2 years old. So this was in the 80s when this topic of mental illness and mental health was not really talked about. The reason why I say that and why it's important to this conversation and also to my book and who I am is because I witnessed in her like the highs and the lows of her thinking, right? So sometimes she would imagine herself to like, go back to school and become a doctor and like do these like, wild things for a single parent who was at one point on welfare, right? So I witnessed that and I noticed how she wasn't able to like execute on those highs, right? And let's call those almost like droplets of her imagination. These were her ideas of the things that she wished for and her visions of her life. But I also noticed, of course, the lows, right? So the sadness, the inability to get up out of bed, and just inability to like be a mom, if I'm being honest about it. And what I got out of that witnessing as a person that, really obviously loves my mom is that, wow, okay, I myself, with the gratitude that I have for my mental health, I'm actually able to execute on these like wild, outlandish ideas from my mind's eye. And so as a little girl, I would really, as I was going to sleep, I would dream up these visions for my life, right? Fun fact, I never thought anything beyond being 40. For some reason, I would just be like, 40 was the oldest age ever, which right now presents a new challenge because I'm going to be 46. So it's like, oh my God, I have no idea where I'm going next. But at the time, I was like, okay, I was living in New York and I was imagining myself living in London. I was like, oh, I'm going to be in London. It's like Sherlock Holmes. It's like London fog. And then I also would, imagine myself at one point being in an Ivy League education, all of this as I would put my head down on the pillow. Fast forward 100 or so years, I became a mom. And so my firstborn, and anyone listening to this is going to get it. Like, how often do you have time to like fall asleep and sleep? Not much. And so that's kind of what got me to that point of realizing that when I became a mom, I was no longer having those visions, those ideas, those moments of like calm where I would start thinking about what would excite me, what were my dreams and ideas. So what I ended up doing from that point, and when I made that realization that I wasn't sleeping anymore, which is a very easy realization, I was like, okay, something is missing, because that idea, that dreaming bigger, that inspiration I got from, again, being the child to my mom, seeing my mom and her big dreams, that really, like, it would light me up, it would excite me, it propelled me forward. And as a mom, anyone listening, like, we need way more than another cup of coffee, although I'm always game for another cup of coffee. And for us, and what I've noticed and for myself is, again, like, I needed to figure out how to reawaken my imagination. And that's why I wrote my book, Fertile Imagination. And I broke it up into 3 steps, because my belief is that we need to actually listen to the ideas in our head so that they feel seen, heard, and valued. Just like a little kid, right? It's like if you ignore that kid's going to then really do things to get your attention. But then at the same time, they might even, well, okay, maybe not my 3 children, because I have 3 now, but they might just like stop coming by, asking to be seen and played with, right? They're like, oh, mommy's like not going to play with me, so why bother? And so for me, step 1 was, okay, how do I reawaken my imagination? Because it was important to me, because it was part of what lit up my spirit and made me feel alive and happy, like a Christmas tree. I don't know why, but that's just like my thing. I like feeling like a Christmas tree. And so I was like, all right, let me figure this out for myself and write it out in my book, for imagination. So reawaken your imagination. For me, that was really about offering almost like, and I just say quote unquote, offering like a safe environment in which your imagination to feel like it could actually tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, I have an idea. And maybe Melissa or the listener is actually going to listen to it. So reawakening your imagination is about limiting beliefs and making sure that you're opening yourself up to feeling empowered, making sure that you are getting like actual sleep, because again, for me, that was important to imagining these things, and all of the sort of groundwork necessary to feel like, okay, if your imagination gives you an idea, you'll actually listen to it. You'll be self-aware enough, courageous enough, you'll believe yourself creative. And that's reawakening the imagination. The second out of the three steps is playing with your imagination. And Dori and I were just talking about that before we hit record, right? It was like, okay, being that fun grandmother, being that fun mom, that fun aunt, and just like truly playing, like playing to a point where someone is looking at you and saying, okay, that person forgot that they're like 40 something and they think they're like 17 or 12 or whatever, right? It's funny. I was watching a Goldie Hawn video the other day, funny enough, and I associate her with like playing, being so silly, right? Giggling and all of that. That is basically taking that idea from your imagination, right? So reawakened your imagination. The imagination now says, oh, okay, this person is going to listen to my idea, and then entertaining that idea, trying it on for size, playing with it, juggling with it, saying like, oh, this is possible in my life. Maybe I open up a business, or maybe I take my kid and, we go to this European country and they learn a language and practice it there. Playing with the idea, right? That's the second part to getting to that moment where you're really using it like a superpower that every mom has. The third one is stretching your imagination. So the book is in 3 sections, right? Reawaken, play, stretching. The stretching part really requires that you open up and you tell another human being your idea, because that is what it's going to take to actually execute the idea to its maximum end point. And in this book, as a podcaster myself, what I decided to do was to capture some of the podcast conversations that I've been having throughout these years since 2017, and really just kind of overlay how I interpreted what they told me on using their imagination, but as a mom to now 3 little boys. So fun fact, I have identical twins too. And so for me, it's been necessary. Like there's just no way, that I could survive motherhood without thinking creatively about everything you can imagine and not imagine, from logistics to how I'm going to, keep up with my nursing commitment to my 3 boys at the time, to how I was going to keep my business afloat, when I wasn't sleeping whatsoever at all. I mean, it's taken a heck of an imagination, and that's my message for anyone listening. It's like you actually can do something even though you feel like it's impossible. However, you're going to have a little bit of help, and it comes from your imagination, which can be quite fertile, as the book suggests, because you're a mom and you've had to use it.
Absolutely. I like that you broke it into the 3 different phases of things. And that third phase of telling people about your dreams. I had a guest one time who said, you want to dream so big, it makes other people laugh. And it's so true. And as a podcaster, I'm sure you have listened to people talk themselves out of their dreams. It's amazing to me how somebody will say what they want to do and then explain why it's never going to work.
Yeah. And the funny part there is that oftentimes we do use our imagination, but we point it in the wrong direction of negative thinking, talking ourselves out of it, self-sabotage. So you're imagining a future that is not going to go according to plan, or worse, you're imagining your kids, falling off of like the jungle gym thingamajigs, right? You're imagining all these negative things. And so it's about changing the direction of the existing, capability that the human mind has, being able to see things that are not yet like out there in reality, and just kind of, pointing it to more like positive things. And as a coach, maybe that's a little too extreme. So let's just get to like point of neutral, start there. It's like, what can you actually believe? Because we cannot actually lie to ourselves necessarily. I can't say, yes, I am going to be 6 feet. I am 5 feet flat. And like, this is where we're at this point in my life. And I'm not going to be a basketball player. So that would be a lie. And I cannot believe it. But what I can believe is, well, if there's a hoop that is short, which in my kids' elementary school, they have 3 different height sort of hoops, then chances are I'll be able to, slam dunk in that particular hoop because it is my size. So, you know what I mean? Like, what can I believe? And let's just start there. And then little by little, we practice just like a muscle on imagining like a better outcome next time and a better one and a better one. So on and so forth.
Think about what Melissa just said. We are going to take a quick break, say thank you to our sponsors, and we'll be back here in just a moment on Word of Mom Radio. She is brave, she is bold, she is you, and we want to tell your story. Are you ready to share your journey with us on Word of Mom Radio? Go to wordofmomradio.com and register as a guest. We want to tell your story because when you win, we all win.
In 2017, Unsilenced Voices was formed to help survivors of domestic abuse and gender-based violence worldwide. The organization currently serves Sierra Leone, Rwanda, Ghana, and the USA. In 2022, Unsilenced Voices gifted over $33,000 to survivors in the USA, and in Sierra Leone, there are over 26 young girls who have been rescued from sex trafficking and domestic abuse and now going through vocational training school in order to better their lives. We need your help. Donations are critical in order for us to continue our work. We also need volunteers to help with research and development. Please visit unsilencedvoices.org for more information.
And we're back here on Word of Mom Radio. We are talking with Melissa Llarena about her book and most importantly about our imagination, because it's amazing to me how thoughts are things. And, when we're young, we imagine everything. Who's going to be an astronaut? Who's going to be a ballerina? All of the different things that there are no limitations to what they can do. When they put on that cape, they are that superhero. My grandson thinks he has Jedi mind powers. And so we were driving and he's like, Mimi, I'm going to accelerate the car. So I'm getting on the highway and he's doing the mind power. And to him, it was working. You could feel the car. I stepped on the gas. What am I going to tell him? Dan, this is not your imagination, Danny. This is how the car works. No, of course he has Jedi mind powers. I said, we're going to a very busy place. You need to Jedi mind power us a parking space. Do you know there was 2 steps from where we had to go? There were hundreds of people. There was that parking space right there. And I said to him, those were your Jedi mind powers.
Aww.
We want to reinforce that in our kids. And you know what? We need to reinforce it in ourselves. We need to remind ourselves that there is nothing we can't do if we really set our mind to it. I mean, okay. Am I going to be an astronaut? No. Can I live vicariously through watching that? Sure. But the realistic expectations of our parenting, our personhood, our friendships, our business relationships, all of that. These are the things that it's our imagination that makes it happen in the first place. So for you, what inspired you? What imagination happened for you to write this book? Not for nothing. During a pandemic, 3 kids, you relocated from Australia. Gee, let me write a book. Talk about imagination, Melissa. So take us there.
I mean, I really needed something that was like a stronger pull to complete this book and put my thoughts on paper in public for the world to read and judge. Than just saying and ticking off like a bucket list item, I'm going to write a book. I needed something way bigger. And, here's something that I think a lot of moms might not realize, but we actually have an advantage oftentimes when it comes to the use of our imaginations, because we are living with imagination residents in like experts. Our kids are like, oh my goodness, imagination expertise for sure. So, what does that mean? I was inspired by my identical twins. So, the twins were at a Montessori school in Australia. Yes, it was the pandemic. Yes, there were school closures for like 100 and something days, 2 times at a piece. And yes, I was homeschooling and all of that good and glorious stuff. So, I noticed that the twins did this Egyptian artwork. Like they took basically their own images, so a photograph of themselves, and they created themselves as if they were these like Egyptian like princes and kings. So they took out the artwork and they created these like side portraits of themselves with the Egyptian tone to it. So of course, being as open-minded as I am, when I saw that, for some reason it kind of just like planted this idea in my mind. I was like, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write my book, Fertile Imagination. And then, as a family trip, we're going to go to Egypt. And I'm going to, even if it was not authorized technically, I'm going to take my book to the library in Alexandria, Egypt, one of the world's first biggest libraries. Yes, it has burned since the original, but it's like this like epic library in Egypt, right? The cradle of the world, etc. And that vision of me taking my book and putting it into a bookshelf in Egypt in that marvelous library that I've read about in textbooks as a little girl, that is what's going to keep me excited about this. That is what's going to keep me motivated, because I'm not one to say something that is that wacky and then say, oh, psych. I was just like, playing around with the idea. I'm very like committed to these like big, grandiose ideas. And I use that word grandiose on purpose. Again, if we go back to my mom, manic depression, that is a symptom of someone that has manic depression, like grandiose ideas. However, I again have that gratitude that I'm actually able to execute on some of these like really wacky ideas. So that is what kept me super, super excited. And if you notice, and anyone listening here, like if you have someone in your midst, in your home, who is pretending to be a Jedi person, right? To your point, Dori, or pretending to be, whatever, some sort of wrestler. I'm just thinking a lot of things that my kids have done through the years. What's not to say that their goodness and their inspired thinking cannot rub off on you? Mom, isn't it often the case that we feel like we are learning from our kids, right? And growing based on what our kids are teaching us on this planet, which for that idea of the Egyptian idea, the library idea, that's what got me through those moments when literally when we were relocating from Australia back to the United States, that is what got me through the moments when I didn't have a desk because I sold it in order to move, right? So I was literally at one point on my knees with my laptop on my bed, typing out chapters. When I got back to the United States, I remember my kids, they do jujitsu, Brazilian jujitsu. I was outside looking at my kids do like, arm bars and what have you, and typing updates to the chapter that I had, interviewed this person, entrepreneur, David Meltzer. I remember typing on that sunken sofa, watching my kids do arm bars. And that vision is what really kept me going. Now, did I execute on that vision? Well, here's the truth of the matter. It's a bit of a hotbed right now, that territory and its, entire geographic vicinity. So I didn't actually execute on that yet, right? So it's still something that I intend to do. Fun fact, I finished the book, so the vision was quite compelling. And it was also exciting for me to tell people that vision because people were looking at me like I had 8 heads. However, based on my history of executing on my ambitions, they also were like, oh, I think Melissa's actually going to do this. And I think it inspires other moms. It's like when I have a friend, for example, who does marathons, and she's been to Berlin and done marathon, New York, like so many marathons. And it's like inspiring to see a mom do a marathon more than it has been to see someone, that is not a mom or maybe has different life experiences than myself. And so, again, to maximize your superpower of imagination, you can tell other moms, and it's just so much more legit. It's so much more like, oh, wait a minute. If that person could do it with 3 kids in that circumstance, then I can do it too. So that for me was what pulled me. Like, super wacky thing, I still have those Egyptian artwork pieces because they were inspiring, and it's still my plan. I want to go to the Library of Alexandria, and I want to actually put my book on a bookshelf.
I love that. And I think it's really important that no matter how old we get, that we imagine the unimaginable. I mean, really, to say to somebody, I am going to bring my book and get it to the, library in Alexandria in Egypt. When you are 12 and you say that, people are like, oh, that's a great idea. When you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s, people are like, oh, really, Melissa? Seriously? I am saying, good for you, Melissa. Good for you. Please let me know when you make your trip to Egypt, because I know you will. I think that it is so important. And it is funny because, again, so often we think our friends are going to be our biggest champions. And very often our friends are the ones who look at our dreams and go, really? Are you serious? You're crazy. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's amazing. It really is. And, it's part of that entrepreneurial spirit. It's what draws entrepreneurs to not be an employee. You have to believe. You have to have that vision. You have to be, because, let's face it. I say this to people all the time. They'll start a business and it didn't take off. So now they close this, they start something else. It's like, you need to give your time. You need to let the seeds plant and stuff like that. And their attitude, yeah, but I need to make money right now. Then I'm like, go get a job. Get a job and then do this on the side until you build it up. But if you keep changing what you're doing, then you're never going to gain any traction in what you have. So it's a funny thing, the imagination, because there's I was thinking back to what you were saying, with the mom brain, the big wheel. Remember that toy?
Mm-hmm.
Dad would watch the kid coming down the street. Look how fast they're going. Mom's imagination. You're like Gallagher. The bike's going to trip. It's going to flip over. Your kid's head's going to split open like a watermelon. It's the mom. Because, on the flip side, though, you want to tell them, good, you're doing great. Good. But yeah, our mom brain definitely works in its own way. It does. But that is why. And I like just the whole title of it, the guide for stretching every mom's superpower for maximum impact, because we wouldn't be moms if we didn't have an imagination. We really wouldn't, because it's not a stagnant thing. It has to continue to germinate and grow. So as we're wrapping up, Melissa, how can our listeners learn more about you and your book, and what do you want to leave them with?
Absolutely. So just head on over to my podcast, since you're already listening to this podcast, and go ahead to the Mom Founder Imagination Hub, everywhere that this podcast will be, most likely. So iTunes, Spotify, etc. Hit follow so that this way you can learn from exactly some of the people that I featured in my book, Fertile Imagination. Like, that's a great place to start. The second thing I would say is go to fertileideas.com. You can grab a copy of one of my favorite chapters. It comes from the section where we play with our imagination, and it features me making a fool out of myself. Just kidding, I didn't. But I was telling a story in that section, in that chapter, that free one that you can get right on that website, where I put myself out there and I'm telling a story from back in the day before I had kids in Paris, eating baguettes and chocolate and Comté cheese. Not that those are my favorite, but they are still my favorite. So you will enjoy that chapter. It's totally free. You could purchase the book on Amazon or anywhere, honestly. And definitely, if you have any questions, absolutely reach out to me. I would say LinkedIn. I know it sounds so boring, LinkedIn, but that's where I'm doing most of my work these days as a coach. I really love supporting working moms, for example, who are looking to get back into the workforce without skipping a beat, right? Without, being left back or feeling like you missed out or you're not relevant. So be sure to find me on LinkedIn, Melissa Llarena. Let's connect. I will accept you. Say that you're coming right from Dori's podcast, and I will absolutely accept the connection. So yeah, the message that I leave for all who are listening is the following. You absolutely can solve the challenges that are ahead of you. And while you might not feel like you have all the answers in the moment, if you really do your very best to just, give the ideas that you have in your mind during those silent moments a chance to breathe and just inspire you, whether it's through sleep or exercise or just being open to the idea that you might have a viable solution in your mind. Do it. Just do it. Just take that first step and just, in that moment of stillness, listen to yourself, because chances are there's an idea germinating inside that can actually flourish and solve that one challenge that you're facing today. So there's hope.
Awesome. What a great way to end this conversation. Melissa, I thank you so much for taking the time to share your book, your podcast, and most importantly, that phenomenal imagination that you have and the encouragement, because there's nothing better. Thoughts are things, and everything you tell yourself you can do, you can. It's the little red engine, that simple little book. You talked about, kids' books in the beginning, that simple little book. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It's really true. Henry Ford said it. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So
absolutely,
you can do this. You've got this. So Melissa, all of her links are going to be live. I encourage you to go to her podcast, listen to some of these great guests, and get the book. It's a really fun read. It really is, and wonderful examples of each one of the guests that she has had on her show and things like that, and the messages that they're sharing. So again, all the links are going to be live, and I just thank you very much for being here, Melissa. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dori. Thank you, everyone listening. Hope to connect with you all.
Me too. And for all of you tuning in, thanks so much for being here. We're going to close out with our fabulous theme song from Smith Sisters and the Sunday Drivers. So till next time, this is Dori DeCarlo saying go out and create a marvelous you. Bye for now.
She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold, she is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold, she is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. Sure of herself, yeah, she takes care of biz, powerful and strong, yeah, she knows who she is, has integrity, woman strong and true. You know her by name, see this woman is you. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold, she is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold, she is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. Adds value and hope, has proved to be brave. See, it's never too late, never time to behave. Reaching for dreams, doesn't matter the age. Believes in herself, unleashed from her cage. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. strong. She is strong. She is true. She is true. She is brave. She is brave. She is bold. She is bold. She is you.